related, almost related to this, we're being told by the Daily Nation that the family is in crisis, and we're told love lies when marriage turns to murder, and they've outlined a number of cases involving Solomon Mbuthi Mwangi. His wife Jen Muthoni, a secondary school principal, was charged with his murder in 2016. Then we have Beryl Adhiambo Ouma. In February, Mr. Laiko Osuri was arrested on suspicion of killing his wife. We have Robert Chesang and Mike Okombe. In November 2017, Miss Marianne Mumbi, described as the wife slash girlfriend of rugby player, was arrested and arraigned over his death. And obviously the anchor for this whole issue is that death of Tob Cohen, who, and we're told on the Standard now, who gets what? Cohen heirs to be revealed, and details of who slain that tycoon has bequeathed his property to will be known today ahead of a planned Jewish burial on Monday. And obviously the wife has said that she will not be attending that particular session, and she says her lawyers have asserted that it seems that that will is compromised. Mr. Bichachi.
You know, there's a number of things. First, I would like to tell my entire country that they need to stop victimizing Kikuyu women. There are lots of men who've married Kikuyu women and died after their wives had already passed on. So clearly, not all Kikuyu women. No, because it's silly, it's ridiculous. You cannot take the actions of a few people in the past and assume that it is the norm everywhere, because that is an affront to an entire culture and community. That's not the case. The people who murder their lovers fall into two categories. Category number one are people who refuse to be left and think they own people. Okay? Let me just help this country think a little bit. When someone goes and has affairs with someone else, you have no right to come kill them. You do not own them. They do not give you a share certificate when they were signing their marriage certificate saying you now own 50% shares on my body. Okay? They have the right and reserve the right to change their mind about who they want to have fun with. And what you need to do is develop some emotional capacity to know you're not the best thing since sliced bread and you are replaceable. This is the kind of thinking you need to have. In fact, I advise young men, before you marry, please picture coming home one day and finding your wife busy sweating over another individual. If you can deal with that reality, then you're prepared for marriage. Ain't no one ever guaranteed that there is, listen, there are people more handsome than you, there are people who can wax lyrical more than you, there are people more pretty than you, so cheating might happen. And you've seen how many people, you remember the young lady who stabbed the boyfriend because of an SMS. Because of an, so we need to develop that capacity. Watu wakange wakijua unaweza achwa. That's what needs to happen. Unaweza achwa. The second thing is the stigma of separation. That you are in an abusive relationship and you are afraid of walking out of that relationship because what will your pastor say? You'll be kicked out of the worship team and things like that. Be kicked out. It's better you are out of church and alive than in a marriage where you're being beaten and abused and emotionally scarred all the time. And preachers who keep telling people, men and women, that you can stay in a relationship where you're being murdered every day, preacher, you're going to hell because you're lying to God's people. The last part is the people who do insurance fraud and will fraud and want to kill people because of their wealth. That category, again, spawns of the devil himself. As Osianye said, the love of money is the root of all evil. Listen, you cannot get married looking at someone's wallet. Okay? That's not how you marry. You understand? You must marry looking at what you can build together versus what they can give you. So these young ladies and men who are all over social media, I just want someone to take care of me. Take care of your own damn self.
Yeah, that's true. Very wise words right there. Mr. Magal?
A very interesting topic. But allow me to go back to the issue we were discussing before I delve into this one. We have the good Dr. Ezekiel Mutua in this country. I'm one of his biggest supporters.
Are you?
I am.
He's the moral police.
We've gotten to a point where, you know, we've confused we think that freedom is absolute and that we have no responsibilities. People want to use profane language. People want to share profane videos. People want to be at liberty to, to break societal norms which have evolved and developed into our traditions out of experience over a long period of time. Yet whenever somebody stands up to be counted and speak against this, we shout them down.
Yeah.
And Ezekiel Mutua has been forced to take this role because of a vacuum. We don't have laws to protect us, to protect our children and the society in general from this harmful content.
Yes.
If you go to China, before you log on to the internet, you have to give your ID, you have to be of age, and so on and so forth. That is not the case in Kenya.
I would like to differ with you very much on that, because I've lived there, and trust me, you do not want that reality in this country.
In the UK, you wouldn't find... in the UK,
thank you. This is pontificating, what do you call it, dictatorship.
It's not a dictatorship.
Well,
For every right, there is a responsibility, and that is what Kenyans don't understand. There's nothing like an absolute right. If you go to the UK, you cannot have pornographic magazines in the children's section.
Which is quite
Here in Kenya, you'll see them being sold side by side with newspapers by the street vendors. With the box TVs, with the box TVs, you can access content from any part of the world here in Kenya. Whereas in the US, it might be midnight and it's being screened there after the children have gone to bed. In Kenya, your child will be watching pornography right in the morning. Switch on your TV and see.
Yeah.
I have made it a point in my home to watch a movie before I watch it with my children, because sometimes you are there with your daughters and in the middle of it, something funny comes up.
Yeah.
It is our responsibility as a nation, as a society, to guard ourselves against corrupting and pervasive influence. Now to this point that we are speaking about, again, this is just a manifestation of the moral decadence within the society.
Yeah.
We've got people, when you watch a violent movie, what do you expect? You get out what you put in. But I wouldn't dwell so much on that. My point, the main point I would like to make is on mental health.
Yeah.
Before somebody takes a knife and stabs another 30 times. The other day there was an instance where a man walked into a class, took his wife's, who happened to be the teacher to that class, took his wife's phone, went through it and stabbed her in front of children.
Kids, yeah.
This is not normal. This is a mental health issue. And in Kenya, it's not sufficiently addressed. I've interacted with madmen that would pass as normal, and I didn't know until at some point it really got bad and he had to be taken away to a psychiatric wing. We don't have counseling services. When marriages break up, where do people? Most of these people turn to their pastors, who are ill-equipped to discuss with them. In fact, it's gotten to Kenya is a society where if you have mental problems, you won't discuss it with anyone, because then you'll be segregated. We see how we treat the mentally ill in our society. We are, people from prominent families are walking these streets carrying gunias instead of being in a psychiatric wing somewhere in this country. Go to Madari Hospital, which is the only psychiatric facility in this country. Those people live in pathetic conditions.
Sure.
There is no medicine. There are no enough qualified psychiatric and other medical personnel to attend to them. I think that is where we should narrow down. And it is the same thing that causes a brother to kill the father or the brother because of ugali or because of a quarter acre piece of land. It is the same thing. Mental health issues, stress that has gone out of control, depression, and so on and so forth.
Now, I'm imagining maybe it's our approach to it, even if you combine it with the issue with Ezekiel Mutua, perhaps wagging your finger at society is not the solution. Maybe we need programs in schools and society that instill values or sort of just helps us recognize this is right and this is wrong. And while internet freedom is a good thing, perhaps we can have maybe national ethos that helps us, decipher what is
the
ours.
national ethos. cannot exist of themselves.
Yes.
They need to have a basis, and usually that is the law or regulations. For example, the media houses are supposed to regulate themselves.
Yeah.
They are supposed to share with the public responsible content. Just switch on your radio station right now and hear the kind of discussions going on. So somebody, being allowed to call early in the morning, you are there seated with your children in a matatu, and people are talking about, where they slept, whom they slept with, how they are sleeping around. And how do you protect your son from this?
Yeah.
If you live, even if you are to, just like Oceania said, parenting has become so difficult because we are not working collectively as society. Everyone has been left to his own devices. So I live home, I leave my child with a remote control. I don't know what she's going to watch. But if the TV station took cognizance of that fact and acted responsibly, then I would be more secure. If the man in the radio station was more appreciative of that, then they would be responsive to what my needs are. But then we have a society where money rules everything.
Yeah,
anybody and everybody will do anything to make money. This kid that we are condemning right now is a celebrity, and I wouldn't be surprised if he's making money out of it, or if he soon starts to make money out of it. What then? All the other kids will take it up. And why would I stop my son from doing the same if it brings food on the table?
Yeah, and even how would you anyway?
Yes.
Now, I do agree with you on that. Ms. Ambogo, what do you feel about this?
Well, on the issue of lovers turning into murderers and the related issues, I think for me, my take is that recently the World Health Organization released a report that ranked Kenya as the 6th most depressed nation in Africa. So basically, the report's implications, or rather what the report was trying to tell us, is that a very huge population of Kenyans are undergoing depression. And in that particular report, they actually went ahead and mentioned that the majority, the most affected gender of depression, rather with depression, is men in this country. And this would go a long way in explaining why we've seen a lot of cases where young men, husbands, fathers, killing not just their spouses, but sometimes even going ahead and killing their spouses, including the children as well.
Yes.
So I will agree with Philip that it is mostly attributable to depression. However, not having experience in marriage, unlike my fellow panelists, I would want to focus on an issue.
And me.
Yes, and you. I would wish to focus on an issue that I think we are not dealing with as a society, and is the greatest contributor to some of these problems that we are having, including depression, that now leads us to act in that particular manner. We have not trained our society, and especially the young people, on how to deal with failure.
Yes.
We do not know what failure looks like. We do not know how it feels. We cannot even identify when we are undergoing failure that this is indeed failure, to be able to deal with it. When a young person is, for instance, at the university, and this I've seen with some of my fellow students while at the university, when a student is unable to keep up with academics and unable to finish their schoolwork, and they begin to get extremely stressed, get into, partaking in drugs, because we don't know that when there's a simple setback or a mere setback that we are facing as the youth, the first thing to do is to first of all accept that indeed I have not performed, or rather I have not delivered as I expected to deliver, and so I have failed. And it is normal and it is natural, because when we don't know how to deal with failure, what will happen is that when we get into a relationship, all we are expecting is that it has to work, and it has to work according to my terms. So if it doesn't work according to my terms, then I will automatically react, and I will lose it. I don't know how to deal with it. I don't know how to accept that I have failed at this. And even as I have failed, there are mitigating factors that I can put in place to ensure that things work out. Because we don't know how to deal with failure. When failure comes, we react in the most ridiculous of manners. We overreact. We end up killing people. We end up destroying property. We end up acting in ways that could have been mitigated had we learned that there are ways of dealing with failure. There's how you accept that my marriage is not working. And you see, once you accept, it is even easy to now say, okay, fine, things are not working well in my marriage. What do we do? Should we go for counseling? Should we sit down and talk to each other? Should we talk to our parents? Should we involve a few friends? The other issue is that we lack safe spaces to express ourselves when we are going through marital problems or issues within our relationships. When a girl is being married off to a man, especially during the dowry payment, and even during the wedding, the parents usually make it very clear. In fact, I went for a friend's Rora show the other day, and the mother stood up and told her, now you are no longer our property. If anything happens, you're now in a new home, and you have to stay there. So you know what you're telling this girl, and remember, it will be repeated over and over during the marriage. It will be repeated even before she goes to that home, and even while she's there. So when she has issues and she needs a safe space to come back to her mom, even if it's just for 2 weeks, and cool off, she doesn't have that space because her parents have told her, you're now in a new home. You're no longer welcome here. You're no longer our child. We've given you away in exchange for a few goats and a few cows. And that is it. Let us have safe spaces that allow for married couples and even young people in relationships to be able to express their issues. Because in talking, there is healing. And in talking, there is the coming up of solutions and yeah.
Mr. Osiani, briefly as we go on break.
You see, the social pressures are continually abounding. That has its own dynamics, even on the marriages. So you have a depressed global economy. There is no money. You have the problem of nowadays people getting married without knowing why they are getting married and to whom they are getting married. So from the word go, you find a good lady is likely to know that this guy abuses me emotionally or physically. But because she feels that there's something in that guy that she cannot live without. Maybe it's his money or his looks, or some people are they just control you. And we do not have the social support structures to enable people to find safe havens. Counseling places for free where people can walk into and say, this is it. As opposed to that, you have counselors sometimes who the next thing you will hear is examples of you being given in a talk elsewhere.
Somewhere,
And then you also have the general problem of people trying to be what they are not. The desire for young people to try and live lives that are way above them. Absorbing, therefore, young girls into lifestyles that they would not have lived, or even young men into lifestyles that, we no longer want to work hard. You have the problem of what we consume every day. So what we consume on television and other forms of media is that one, marriage is not bound to work. So when you are done, if you feel you're done, move on. What we consume is that, hey, you must marry a guy who drives a 4x4 or a top-of-the-range Mercedes or a Porsche Cayenne. What we consume is that a lady is not complete until she has decided to get boob jobs or what jobs, whatever that is. And that, therefore, impedes our ability to even sustain the basic pressures that we go through, even in marriage. When you look at the basis for the deaths here, it's because people could not take in or absorb the fact that their partners have decided to be unfaithful. But was that the way to deal with it? Again, what we consume. You go watch movies and see how people deal with partners who are unfaithful and decide also, this is how it is done.
Doing it.
This is how we are doing it. So even adults, let alone children, who we think consuming books that have the F word is a problem. Even adults are unable to tell what is good for them, what is not good for them, and their actions. I mean, our society, we have a problem. We have a problem, and it is not about to become better.
Just to buttress what he's saying.
We have to take a short break.
We had a song called Shocker, isn't it?
Shocker, yes, which we strongly condemned on this show.
If Ezekiel Mutua rose up and spoke up against it, some people would have condemned.
And he did. He did, and he was condemned for it. But I'm glad he did. It stopped. It disappeared.
And perhaps more people need to get behind Ezekiel Mutua and some of the things that he does condemn. We have to take a short break. When we come back, we'll have more discussions. The week will be in review, and we'll be taking a look at some